Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking a deep dive into Alaska Airlines' massive leap into wide-body international flying. We're going to examine their recent, super aggressive expansion, the shiny new fleet that's making it all possible, and, of course, the undeniable operational hurdles that pop up when you start playing in the global big leagues.
Okay, let's dive right into this. It might seem like a bit of a stretch to connect a dramatic mid-air emergency over Europe to a fierce, multi-billion-dollar turf war for international travelers out of the Pacific Northwest. But as we'll see, these things are entirely interconnected when a traditionally domestic airline stretches its wings to take on the legacy global carriers.
Section 1. Emergency over Europe. The diversion of Flight AS181. So, let's set the scene for one of these recent operational hurdles. July 19, 2026. An Alaska Airlines Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner takes off from Rome Fiumicino at 15:45 Central European summertime, headed straight for Seattle. By 17:15, everything's smooth. It's cruising normally at 34,000 feet right over France. But then, just 30 minutes later, at 17:45, the aircraft executes this sharp U-turn over the southeastern United Kingdom. At 18:15, right near the Atlantic coast, the crew sets the transponder to squawk 7700. That's a broadcast for general emergency. After dumping fuel over open water to shed some landing weight, the aircraft safely touched down back in Rome at 21:15. It essentially capped off a really tense 5.5-hour ordeal. So what actually caused this dramatic U-turn? Well, the crew detected an abnormal indication, specifically an engine vibration. Now, on long-haul flights, especially right before you commit to a full crossing of the Atlantic Ocean, pilots will very often opt for a precautionary return. It was a completely standard, totally conservative decision. Declaring an emergency just gave them priority handling from air traffic control and made sure emergency services were waiting on the ground, purely as a precaution. Section 2. Contextualizing aviation safety. Statistically fine. It is incredibly easy to read a headline about a Squawk 7700 emergency and immediately feel a massive spike of anxiety. But if we zoom out and look at the macro aviation safety data, it tells a very reassuring story. Take the number 26. That is the number of consecutive years Alaska Airlines has gone without a fatal accident. Their last one was all the way back in the year 2000. They've built this incredibly strong, ruggedly safe record, even while often flying in really demanding terrain and harsh weather. And this brilliantly illustrates the staggering safety of modern commercial aviation. According to data compiled by MIT, at our current level of safety, the gap between major airlines is just statistically negligible. Think about this. If you fly Alaska Airlines, or frankly, any major scheduled carrier, you would need to fly every single day for over 25,000 years to statistically expect to be involved in a fatal accident. But look, that safety record isn't just magic, right? It's the direct results of strict, uncompromising regulations that are being constantly updated. For example, check out this official Federal Register FAA Airworthiness Directive from July 2026. This one was specifically targeting Boeing 787s. Basically, this directive was prompted by reports of door assist handles actually pulling loose from their lower attach points during pre-flight checks. So the FAA stepped in and mandated the installation of new retainers above the lower keyway of the support bracket assembly. This guarantees that a door handle isn't going to just detach when a crew member or passenger tries to wrench it open during a frantic, time-limited emergency evacuation. It's really a perfect example of the constant proactive vigilance that keeps flying so incredibly safe. And this uncompromising regulatory environment applies to every single carrier. Right around that exact same time in July 2026, headlines also mentioned a United Airlines 787-9 being grounded due to a TCAS failure. That's an issue with the traffic collision avoidance system. The rule is simple. If a vital system isn't perfect, the plane simply does not fly, period. Section 3. The wide-body era begins, expanding the network. So now that we understand the safety context of operating these massive planes, how on earth did Alaska Airlines even get these Boeing 787-9s to fly to Rome in the first place? Because for almost its entire history, Alaska has been a domestic carrier flying a narrow-body fleet. Well, everything flipped with their merger with Hawaiian Airlines. Alaska basically inherited Hawaiian's incoming orders for the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. And boom. Suddenly, they had the heavy-duty hardware to expand from domestic narrow-body flying into international long-haul wide-body routes. They launched their very first scheduled nonstop service between Seattle and Rome in April 2026, and now they're flying these impressive aircraft to London and Seoul as well. Section 4. The missing premium cabin.
cabin economics.
Now, what's really interesting here is that transitioning to international long-haul flying requires way more than just buying bigger airplanes. It demands a totally different interior strategy. And when we step inside these new planes, we uncover a crucial business problem hidden in the dense 300-seat configuration Alaska inherited. You've got 34 really well-regarded reverse herringbone business class suites and 187 standard economy seats. Smack in the middle, you have 79 seats labeled as premium class. But if you look closely, something major is missing from this setup. Here's the catch. Alaska's Dreamliners currently lack a true premium economy cabin. Their premium class is essentially just an economy seat with some extra legroom, standard width, and a few free drinks. It's comparable to something like Delta Comfort or United Economy Plus. A true premium economy, which is exactly what mid-market business travelers are demanding right now, features wider recliner seats and a highly elevated soft product. And while Alaska absolutely plans to retrofit these planes to include a true premium economy, those upgrades won't actually begin until 2028. And let me tell you, this gap in their product lineup matters immensely for their bottom line. Airlines repeatedly report that true premium economy is literally their most profitable cabin on a square foot basis. They can charge double the economy price for a seat that honestly doesn't take up that much more physical space. So right now, on these long-haul business routes, Alaska is leaving some serious revenue on the table. Section 5. Taking on Delta. The Battle for Seattle. So the crucial point is that this missing cabin and the introduction of these new long-haul planes tied directly into a massive airline rivalry brewing in the Pacific Northwest. Since declaring Seattle a hub in 2014, Delta Airlines has relentlessly built up its long-haul dominance. Their biggest advantage has been offering Seattle passengers direct global access. They fly wide bodies direct to Amsterdam, Paris, and London in Europe, and to Seoul, Shanghai, and Tokyo in Asia. Until recently, Alaska Airlines just couldn't compete with a map like that. But Alaska isn't just sitting back. They are aggressively countering. Despite Delta's massive international map, Alaska still commands a whopping 50% market share in Seattle. With their new 787s, and by really leveraging their One World Alliance partners, Alaska's aiming to operate at least 12 long-haul routes out of Seattle by 2030. They want to erase Delta's long-haul advantage entirely. And Delta? Oh, they're feeling the heat. They recently responded to Alaska's expansion by immediately adding their own service to Rome and Barcelona, literally matching them step for step. So, the competitive landscape is shifting, and it's shifting fast. Alaska Airlines has that deep local loyalty, and now, finally, they have the wide-body planes to cross oceans. As they work through the inevitable operational hurdles of flying new fleets, retrofit their cabins to capture that vital premium economy revenue by 2028, and rapidly expand their global footprint, we really have to ask, will Alaska Airlines successfully dethrone Delta to become Seattle's premier long-haul carrier? It's a remarkably high-stakes battle for the skies, and we are going to be watching every single move. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.